the beautiful people in the world. And because I was so different, and, at a little age, she didn't know if I was going to be gay, straight, trans, whatever. And she was like, it's the most colorful people in the world that make the rainbow, and that's what makes the world so special. I remember my mom telling me that at 8 years old. And I knew what a drag queen was at 8 years old. And my hero growing up actually was this man who was in community theater in this small town. And he was as gay as they could come, gay as a jaybird, did drag. And he was just my hero. And I remember looking up to him, wanting to be like him. And I even did drag at like 8, 10, 12, 13 years old. And what I loved about him, and I think that's why I looked up to him as a hero, is because he was so like free. He was so himself, like in a world of like, we were in such a small town, you know what I mean? So for him to just, not try to fit that mold and be himself. So going back to where I feel like pageantry did put that gay title on it is, it's unfortunate to say there was a time in this lifetime that, gay wasn't accepted and they had to be in a box. And so by creating Miss Gay America, 50 years ago, they did that in a sense 50 years ago when it wasn't cool to be gay or okay to be gay, to to be proud of it. And it was like, I'm Miss Gay America. It's not Miss Gay America FI or anything like that. It was Miss Gay America. And same thing with the Miss Gay USA system, US of A now. Back in the day it was USA. So yeah, I grew up knowing all about these different pageant systems. And like, I feel like they've kept the name just because it's part of their tradition, even though I feel like a lot of them are so, forward because, we're just so open as one community now. And that's like, I was talking to Tiffany Bonet, who won in '92, and she was like, just seeing the world today and seeing, the 50th anniversary of Miss Gay America, that contest just ended. She was like, I'm so proud to like see everything and see in the audience, you had like, like people come attend the pageant from all different walks of life. It wasn't just your LGBT community. There were people that just loved the art form and loved the craft and the entertainment of drag and supported it. And it was just a really cool experience all around.
Well, it's great that you come from a dance background, and the fact that you grew up, in small towns like Texas and a lot of other places in the United States, they focus on pageantry because that's really big in a lot of those small towns. And it gives you a chance to focus because you're growing up with such, strict backgrounds or religious backgrounds, or your family is just determined to succeed and see you succeed. So this is a good thing. Now, I want to talk about Continental for just a minute. Mm-hmm. What was the most difficult thing you had to prepare for?
The hardest thing for me to prepare for, so I actually want to start like this. I did Continental 2 years ago when Desi won, and I just made it in the top 5. And I just did it on a whim. I did it as like a Hail Mary throw. I just gave up Entertainer of the Year. Skip always wanted me to do it. He was like, you got to do Continental. You got to do it. I'm like, I just gave this Entertainer of the Year up. I need a break. Da, da, da. He was like, I got this. He'll, take care of you. He'll make sure he'll cover what you need. Just come do it. Have fun, get your feet wet. So I went in the mindset of get my feet wet. And I was second in interview by 1 point. And I won talent by 28 points. And I was in the top 5. So when those score sheets came out, I was like, oh my God, like I could do this. They love my business platform. They love what I stand for in interview. They love what I want to bring to the system. They admire my talent. A lot of these pageants, it's kind of hit and miss with what I do because they're very like, it's about the girl, you're lifting her, you don't lip sync, you don't this, you don't that, but Continental loved it. So the hardest thing preparing for this year was getting my confidence up to know that it was possible that I could win. Like I'm the one, like I can do this. And that was the hardest part. It was the mindset. It wasn't getting the formal wear or getting interview training or modeling training or swimsuits or creating my talent. It was just constantly being in the mindset of, you can win this, you can do it. And I want to tell a quick story because this was another thing, and I can't wait till I get to do this for someone. So Michael J. Valentine, I've known him since I was like 16 years old. Like, so he's been really a part of my life for a long time. And when I made that top 5, I remember we saw each other in October and right after, and he gave me his Continental trophy. And I remember it saying Mr. Continental 2016. And he was like, I want you to put this on a shelf in your room, and I want you to look at it, and I want you to envision, I want you to hold it, because you need to get this feeling of this is possible. Like, you can win this thing. And I remember I like thought he was crazy for doing that. And like, I've always meant to send it back to him. And I remember sending it back to him like in July. I brought it to his when he won All-American Gent. And I gave it back to him. And he's like, well, you've not won yet. And I said, I know I'm going to win. Like, I'm already the winner. Like, I don't need to keep this thing anymore. And that was just the coolest thing about Continental, is they're just such a family. Like, when you win, and like, not even like winning, just when you're a part of that Continental system, like, you are a family. Like, they're your brothers. Like, they have a big saying of like, my brother's keeper. And like, for Michael to do that, because, when I was 16, I came on like a whim. I did so good. He was like, I want you to like have this and just, give it back when you win yours, because I know you're going to win yours soon. Like, it meant so much to me. And it really helped me like get ready for the process of like, I'm like kind of like going around in circles with my words, but like, formal wear and swimwear and talent, people get so caught up in that stuff. And the thing you really need to prep for is the win. You need to prep for, I can win this thing. It's all in here, because everyone's formal wear looks the same. Everyone's swimwear looks the same. We all about do the same thing in talent. It's who's doing it with conviction, and who's selling it, and who's pushing it forward, and who's reading on their shirt, I'm the one, pick me, I'm the winner. And, that was the hardest part, but I was so fortunate to have mentors and friends from the Continental system that like were able to help me do so.
Well, when I first watched you in the first pageant, you were very different in this pageant, and because you were very focused, and I could tell the difference in a major way. You shifted totally. And what else I liked is, and I know that's why the Continental system chose you, is because you weren't that cookie cutter person. That's, like you said, a lot of them are doing the same thing in the same kind of format and everything, and you were very different. And that is sometimes the key to what winners, are made of, is that they're different and they do things outside of the box. And that's what I liked about your talent. I watched it. And
thank you.
I thought it was fantastic. I did my research a little bit. I didn't want to dig too much, because when she sent me the format of what she wanted me to ask you, I said, well, I want to change this and change this, because I want it to be more relaxed. If it's more relaxed, she had a very structured way here.
Right.
She wanted to focus on what I was just talking about, just the straight thing and all that. And I thought, no, we're going to talk about the system and your journey in the system. And you're doing perfect. So
Thank you.
I want to say that I like the fact that you were determined, and I could see that from the very get-go this year. Now, number one, how does it feel to be in that room? How does it feel?
I couldn't let my nerves get the best of me. And like a lot of people say, because Continental, one thing is Continental, my favorite system of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not contestant friendly for a reason, because this is a competition. We want the best of the best. This is not about you. This is about the brand of Continental. That's right. There's a lot of other competitions that, they give you all the time in the world, and you're sitting there for 6-7 hours watching it. Like, Continental is done well under 3 hours, done. Mm-hmm. So it's like boom, boom, boom. So they let the stress of that and the stress of being on that stage, because for the longest time, Continental was like the only system that was like actually on stage. Now all these other brands are, rebuilding and, going to event centers and getting out of clubs and going to theaters. And I feel like that makes such a huge difference. But Continental is like known for that stage, and it's known for the system that's on a stage. And there's no other stage like that Park West stage. I mean, you're in there with 12 to 1,500 people, jam-packed, screaming and hollering for you. And you can't let the nerves get the best for you. And I was like, that was another thing. I was like, I can't lose, because I literally have over 200 fans and like 65 guests that I personally invited and brought my 65 people. Like, when I tell you I spent a lot of money on my package, it was not like what you saw on the stage. It was like, I wanted people there to see it. Like, I wanted them to experience greatness. And like, my grandfather, which that's a whole other story that I'm gonna tap in a little bit on. He's been on a plane twice his entire life, and one of them was to come to Continental, and he's never seen a drag queen. He has no idea what transgender is. So he was like fully educated and learning. And that's what I loved about him, because it's like, you know, how we're raised is typically how we turn out. And that's not in his case. You know, he was, you know, he's like 65, 70 in there. I don't know how old he is. I probably should know. And, you know, he really came from a time of like, if you are not at the freaking altar repenting for your sins every single Sunday, like you're going to burn in hell. So like, don't even get started on like drinking drugs and, you know, being gay. And, you know, my older brother actually does identify as gay. You know, my younger sister identifies as binary, and he loves us, and he is so supportive of every single thing we've done. He's been so supportive of my career as a dancer, me and all my relationships with whoever I'm with. And for him to be like, he didn't come to Continental the first time, and he heard all about the rave from my mom and dad and grandmother. He was like, I gotta come watch that. I gotta watch you win that thing. And for him to come, it was just such a special moment. So I was like, I can't mess this up. Like, I can't lose in front of all these people, and especially someone that like has never seen a drag queen before and now knows what a drag queen is because he wanted to see me win Mr. Continental. So it was a big moment. It was huge.
Well, you know, it's fantastic that your family is such a great support system, something that we all need right now. And the fact that you had that, you know, I say this all the time to people. My parents were amazing to me, even though they knew I was gay from get-go. And then when I started transitioning and doing all different kinds of things, they never mentioned anything about that. They were just amazing to me, and I miss them both too. And I think to this day, it's great when you have a support system like you have, and like many of us have, and to see family and friends sitting in the audience at your win must feel incredible.
You know, a lot of people go back and they watch the tape of me winning, and they're like, your reaction was so different than anyone else's reaction. And they related it to two other people. They said, I've not seen anyone else have that reaction but Antoine Steele and Sir Valentino. And, you know, everyone else, when they win, they get so excited and they're jumping up and down and they're running all over the place. And we three, when we won, we literally broke down. Like, we literally immediately went here. And that's what I love that I studied about the system, is just that moment of when your name was said. I can't tell you how many times on YouTube I've watched like Joey Taylor win, Michael J. Valentine, Antoine Steele, Kalia Valentino, all of them. And it was just, it means so much. Like I can't even explain, like, if you've not done a pageant and you're watching this, like, join the Continental family, because they treat you like family no matter what place you end up. And celebrate your progress and your goals. Because the one thing I love about Continental, they make it a big deal to make the 12, and they make it like you're it if you're in the 5. So celebrate your goals. If you're best non-finalist, you know, celebrate that you were so close to making that 12. Or if you were 6th place, best, you know, non-finalist of the 5, celebrate that. And that's what I've told all these people. That's the problem in pageantry. People lose and they get bitter and they want to go somewhere else. And I'm like, stick with the brand of the system that you believe in and celebrate your success, because life is not about competing against each other. It's about competing against yourself. And did you do your best? And that's like what I fully stand by. And I was out there with 18 other boys, and I did not compete against anyone but myself. And, you know, I did it.
Wonderful. It's wonderful that you say that. You know, when I was talking to Miss Continental Elite, she actually did the show, and she said, I love her. She said something very, very similar to what you just said, is that, you know, you have to be prepared mentally. And she told me, just like you just said, I knew I was going to win. I knew I was going to win. I had put it in my mind I was going to win. And you said the same thing. And this just goes to show you, great minds think alike. And like I said, is in the long run, I never thought I could do this. But then when I start looking, I go, I can do that. I can do it. I can't believe it.
Good at it.
Well, yeah, I can do it. So I think, like you said, is when you put it in your mind, you can do almost anything.
You know, I'm very spiritual, and I listen to a lot of services, and one of my favorite pastors is TD Jakes and Stephen Furtick, and they spoke together. And one thing that they said that like I share with everybody is like, if you could write it in pencil, you can weld it with steel. And that's so important. If you can envision it and imagine it in your life, like I love that, and I'll actually send you a link to it. But the other thing he talked about is he was like talking about when he was in the safari, and he talked about how like the lion's defense mechanism was like roaring, and you know he put the fear of life in everybody, and the elephant was so big and its defense mechanism was throwing its weight around, and the cheetah could run like the wind and the eagle could soar so high. And he was like, you know, God, like what'd you give me? Like what's my defense mechanism? And God said, I gave you a brain. The problem with everyone in life is we think God or the higher power like works in a sense of building tables, and it's not. God makes trees, because you have to envision it. You have to imagine what it could be. You got to imagine what your package could be. You got to imagine what your talent could be. You got to imagine this. We look at how far we have come from a species. Like no other species on this earth has done what we've done, put satellites in space, touchscreen phones, skyscrapers, you name it. And that all comes from the imagination of right here. So this is your defense mechanism. This is what's going to get you to win the contest. It's all right here. You got to imagine it, and that's what creates it.
Well, you know, it's amazing that you say that. I just have a few more questions for you, and you've done fantastic. You've educated me a lot about, you know, I can see the passion and the determination in you, and that is something that we all need, that confidence, that thing that says, I can just do it. And you have that. And so I congratulate you, Mr. Continental.
Thank you.
You know, and you're a beautiful man to look at.
Oh.
So I'm sure all the girls in the back are going, I'm sure they're all looking at you. Now, I want to ask just a few more questions about some things that I saw online in the pageantry forum. Now, what do you think? Now, some of the girls were talking about the men who are femme in the swimsuit portion of Continental. I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yeah, I have. And, you know, I always say like, and this is a speech to, you know, the more feminine men. It's like, you know, don't hate the player, you know, you can't hate the game. This is, you know, this is what it is. Continental spells it out right what they are. And, you know, Continental's not for everybody, but that's the cool thing about the rainbow. You know, it's not, you know, the rainbow's not made of just the color red. Continental wants this. This is very clean cut, very all well-rounded, you know, man. And like, we're not making fun of them. We're like, I support them cold-heartedly, because, you know who you are. And there's other systems out there that, you know, entertainer of the year, I've seen people get out there and sissy it around and work their stuff, and they kill it and they love it and they win. So like, you know, find a home that celebrates you. You know, don't come to Continental knowing, you know, Continental, like they're very straightforward. I could say there are some systems out there that say, oh, we want new, we want this, we want that. And then we bring them new, this and that, and they stick to what they really want. Continental leaves it at the door. This is what we want. This is our brand.
Perfect.
And I support that. Jim has put his life in this, and what this man wants is his right to have. And that's what we have to respect in this industry. You know, it doesn't mean we're not going to accept you and let you come compete, and we're not going to celebrate you, and we're not going to this or that. But, you know, as a judge in Continental, they have the most qualified judges of all judges. You know, they have their criteria sheets, and they have those sheets that you can get copies of and look what they're judging off of. And they're looking off fit, cut, how you model it, how you execute it, your presentation of it. So, you know, if you're doing too much in that, I don't think they get points off because they're being sissy. I think they get points off because they're doing too much, and they get caught up in the modeling, and they lose their tempo in their walk or their poses because they're so caught up in their scarf or their jacket, or their swimsuit cut doesn't fit them right, or that cut's not right on their body. You know, I had a lot of training for Continental on swimsuit, because even me, I'm like, oh my God, like what kind of cut do I need to wear? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, you know, the reason I asked that, because it came up several times in the forum that when we was reading it, she said to me, they keep talking about this. So let's mention that. So I figured that that would be my little controversial one for
Yeah.
the show.
Well, no, it's fine. I stand by the Continental brand. I stand by what the judges want. I stand by what the score sheet is. If it's not for you, not everything's for you. You know, I don't identify. You know, I'm not saying whether if I'm gay or straight or not. I just don't identify. You know, that's my choice. So I wouldn't go do a system that had gay in the title just because that's just not how I identify. That doesn't mean I don't, you know, I don't date men and I don't date women and I don't date, you know, trans women. You know, I just
We
don't
understand.
identify. You know what I
We
mean? So like,
understand. Mhm.
that's just not for me. And, you know, despite, you know, they're always like, oh, you know, you don't have to be gay to do Mr. Gay America. I'm like, well, then why is it in your name? You know,
Yeah,
so
why is the name there? I understand, you know, I like I said before, Travis, you're a fantastic individual and you did a great job. And you're doing a
thank
great
you.
job. I just want to talk a little bit about the pandemic now. Let's talk about the
Mm,
pandemic and how
Lordy.
how it has affected your reign monetarily and for the fact that you couldn't get out to, you know, as many prelims as you would like to and get to meet as many people as you wanted to. And I'm sure
Right.
that has disappointed you a little bit.
It has, but I brought up in my interview, I said, this is, you know, everything in life happens for a reason, and you have the choice to look at it from a positive side or a negative side. And I said, brought up an interview, I said, this is a perfect time that a Mr. Continental can be focusing on other things because, you know, not everything is perfect, you know, with any system. So I was like, this is a great time we could be working on the foundation of Continental. You know, we could be getting the brand of Continental out there, you know, not necessarily let's just keep selling and getting promoters and contestants. You know, there is more to making this system successful than just getting promoters and contestants. You know, we need to get corporate sponsors. We need to get publicly acknowledged. We need to open up to all walks of life because this is an entertaining contest. And, you know, and we're in one of the greatest cities there is of Chicago. You know, we should be advertising and promoting this to Chicago, getting this out to the people of Chicago so they can join and celebrate with us and, you know, and just add on to our family. So that's what I said in an interview. I was like, I want to do that because I know with COVID, we're not going to have a lot of prelims. We are going to be doing, you know, some appointing here and there, but, you know, we're having a good amount of prelims. I'm actually quite surprised. I love every single one of the prelims. We have great turnouts, but yeah, there's some back end work. And I feel like that's what you need to look at is don't look at like what you can't do, look at what you can do. And that's what I've always been. And even in my, like COVID shut me, I remember March 15th, 2020, I got the call. I had 4 touring shows about to go out. I was 5 days away from going and doing Angel City Continental. And I got the call, everything shut down. I remember. And, you know, I had to look at what I had left, not what I lost. You know what I mean? As an entertainer and someone that's, you know, has a full-time business in entertainment that got closed on March 15th, 2020. You know, I was out of work for a long time, but, you know, I had so many other gifts and so many other skill sets that, you know, I was able to, you know, keep moving on with my business. And I was very fortunate for that. And that's what I bring to the Continental table.
Well, you know, that's a good thing. It's good that you're moving forward and that you had that support system from before, because sometimes, like they said, you need 4 or 5 different streams of income or different talent and, you know, different things that can always create an opportunity for you, which you've done. And it's great in the dance. You can do, you know, choreographer, dancer, you know, and you have a wide spectrum of talent that people seek out. Now, it was amazing talking to you, Travis. It really
Oh,
was.
thank you.
It was amazing talking to you. And I hope after this, I will get to meet you somewhere along the line.
Yes, we have to meet sometime. What part of Canada are you in?
I'm in Toronto.
Oh my goodness. I had a dance partner in Toronto one time and I remember flying to Toronto and honey, they loved me. They ate me up. And until I realized that American money was not accepted over there. And then they looked at me like I was an idiot. So
American money is accepted, but they don't
is
like
it?
Yeah.
I was at this gas station and I laid out a $20 bill and they were like, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in Canada.
You do it in the bars. They're more suspicious, but you just go to the bank and you get an exchange and you're all good. But most places take American money.
I was mortified. I was so embarrassed.
Oh, well, the good thing about all that is that it probably got you some attention. So there you
It
go.
did. Yeah, there we
Um,
go. Good way of looking at it.
all right. Now, I want to do in closing. Now, I know that you want to get more people involved in the continental system. As far as as far as the system in general, a lot of the girls are reaching out to try to make the system bigger because a lot of the prelims have fallen off, I hear, and it's great that they have a positive individual like yourself to sort of help get the word out and get the prelims going again. And like you said, brand Continental the way it should be branded. And the fact that I was very surprised that they didn't really have a real movie about Continental like they had about Miss Gay America. I was very surprised about that. I saw them trying to do a movie called The Queens, and I don't know, I didn't get to see it in full. I saw bits and pieces of it online, but I don't think they finished the movie or
Yeah,
it
I
did.
don't I don't know the details of that. I stand behind Jim Flint cold-heartedly. I respect that man. I've learned a lot from that man. I think we all have learned a lot from him, and I feel like he goes discredited in a lot of ways. And so I trust him. I feel like that's a Jim Flint call, whether if he wants this to get televised or be a documentary series, or if he wants to keep it what it is. He created this from scratch, and he was the one out there rollerblading in the streets, waving a flag, to get people to come to this contest to be what it is today. And now, how cool is it that we have Continental to where our, trans community, LGBT community have these great, impeccable leaders like myself, Juliana, Yasmin, and Brittany to look up to so they can see themselves in that. I remember me growing up, I didn't have a male entertainer icon to look up to. I didn't even know what Continental was. So I feel like Jim has done an impeccable job for the community, just in the world itself. So regardless if it gets on TV or not, I mean, look at the difference and the impact that he and Continental has made. And that's where I stand with on that.
Well, wonderful. Now, in closing, what's your advice to potential contestants or potential men in general, or just potential people out there looking at the continental system? And why should they enter Continental, and what makes Continental different from all of the other systems? And why should they participate?
Okay, so let's go slow. Let's go for the first one on my advice to when competing in Continental is persistency and consistency wins the race in every walk of life. We've all heard the saying, you're always going to hear 7 no's before you hear a yes. And that's been quite literally for some people. I can name some Mr. Continentals that have competed 7+ times, went back every single year before they won. And I'm telling you, it's worth it. Don't look at your results and be like, and let that define you. You define you and celebrate your success. And no matter what place that is, even if it's next to last, I remember one of my clients I choreographed for, Buffet, she did Entertainer of the Year 5 years